Okay, I'm going to try to answer a question that a lot of my students ask me, which is, what do a positive and a negative make? Now, that's a good question, but it doesn't entirely make sense until you start talking about what operation you're dealing with. So I think most of the time people want to know, like, or I guess the rule that most students like to know is what happens if you have a positive times a positive, or what happens if you have a negative times a negative. Well, for the case of multiplication, um, a positive times a positive or a negative times a negative, in either of these cases, the answer is going to be positive. And you'll notice that the signs are the same for these. So whenever the signs are the same for multiplication, the answer is going to be positive. However, if you have a positive times a negative or a negative times a positive, but it's really the same thing, these signs are different. So the answer is going to be negative. And um, if you wanted to, you could actually change this to division, and the results would be the same because it's the same rules basically. A positive divided by a positive is a positive. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. Same rules down here. When the signs are the same, positive positive or negative negative, the answer is positive. When the signs are different, positive divided by negative or negative by positive, the answer is negative. So for positive and negative, it's pretty easy to memorize. If the signs are the same, wait, I said that wrong. If for multiplication and division, it's pretty easy to memorize because if the signs are the same, the answer is always going to be positive. If the signs are different, the answer is going to be negative. That's for multiplication and division. But that's not really actually what I think the ones that kids usually ask me about. Um, Usually, I think when kids are asking this question, they want to know more about like addition and subtraction. And the thing about addition and subtraction is there's no real rule because it depends on what the numbers are. You have to look at the numbers. So let's say I wanted to do 6 minus 9. And we want to know, is that going to be a positive or a negative? Well, you have, depending on how you look at it, you either have a positive minus another positive, or you have a positive plus a negative. This is really the same thing as writing 6 plus negative 9. The answer to this, whether it's going to be positive or negative, really depends on which two of these numbers is bigger. And I won't really get into when I say bigger, but let's just look if we have two numbers here, 6 and 9. Well, which one's bigger? The 9 is bigger, and also the 9 happens to be negative. So because the bigger number is negative, that means our answer is going to be negative. So 6 minus 9, as it turns out, is negative 3. And if you want to check that, you could just kind of go to the number line here and start with 6, and then you're going to go down 9 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we're at negative 3. So let's do it with an example where the signs are the same. So let's say we had like negative 4 minus 5. So in this case, when the signs are the same, we have a negative 4 plus a negative 5, which is really the same thing as, this is really the same thing as saying negative 4 plus negative 5. These two things are exactly the same. Because the signs are the same, you're just making a number of greater magnitude that's going to either be positive or negative. So in this case, we have two negative numbers. When we put them together, you're going to get an even bigger negative number. So let's start at negative 4, and then we're going to go down 5 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's where we end up. And the answer is negative 9. And all this you can check on the calculator, confirm it. -4 minus 5 equals -9. So let's do one that maybe we actually can't do on the number line, but it's going to be kind of the same idea. Let's say we have 27 minus 32. Now these numbers are too big to put on a number line, but I still think we could do it. Remember, this is exactly the same thing as saying 27 plus -32. So we have a positive and a negative. Now, again, I don't really want to get into what I mean when I say bigger, but I think it's pretty clear here that the bigger number here is 32, and 32 happens to be negative. So we have two numbers with different signs, and the bigger one's negative. That means our answer is going to be negative. And then you can really just take the difference of these two numbers. The difference of 32 and 27 is 5. So the answer is going to be -5. All right, that about wraps it up for this.